What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's going on with the charts thus far, what's happening with some earnings that just came out, what you should be watching for as I give you guys a pre-market update about the volatility we're about to see. But before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500 into the account, you are guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 free stocks. This offer ends in just a couple of days. Anyways, looking at SPYs, things barely testing 498 right now, kind of shuffling around here. We're going to be watching to see how it reacts to this resistance. And right now, like I said earlier, we're on a little downtrend, at least for the time being. We're going to be watching to see if we're forming a cup and handle or if SPY is going to continue to downtrend and get a double top rejection, just continue to sink to lower levels. Now, I want to break down some news, some data, and stuff like that before I break down the charts. So for today, it's going to be Tuesday, February 20th. Do not forget that at 11:30 a.m., we have the 3-month and the 6-month bill auctions coming out. Might cause some volatility, so watch for that. And besides that, all the data is very minor. On Wednesday, which is tomorrow, we have the FOMC minutes. This could affect the market to some extent. It likely will cause more volatility, so watch and see what happens on Wednesday. Now, when it comes to other things affecting the markets, you could see we just had some drops going on in the Dow, the S&P 500, alongside other futures, and the list goes on. So this is very important to note with the indices and such. On top of this, we got some interesting data that came out. We're going to be looking for more earnings and such for the rest of the week. Walmart ended up announcing that it's going to be buying the TV maker Vizio for $2.3 billion or $11.50 per share in cash. It basically has long sold Vizio TVs. It's looking to boost its high margin advertising business, which is some very bullish news. Now, besides that, it beat on its earnings. I'll talk about that in just a minute. So far, so good. And others are still doing relatively well. On top of this, we also saw large credit card issuers in the US are planning to merge. So it's Capital One. So then on Monday, it's going to acquire Discover Financial Services in a $35.3 billion all stock deal. It's one of the largest potential mergers announced this year so far. It's expected to close in late 2024 or early 2025. So it's some big news. When it comes to PS5, Sony is likely going to release a refreshed version of the PS5 this year ahead of the next GTA that's coming out. So it's very important stuff. And that's actually going to be very interesting to watch for. What is it? Nintendo stock actually fell 6% after reports suggest that the launch of the Switch 2 would be delayed. It's a little bit negative, but so far it's okay. And finally, with the big earnings coming out, don't forget that we're just waiting for Nvda, part of the big Magnificent Sevens. We'll see what happens with that. Earnings come out very soon. So Nvidia's earnings are going to be tomorrow after the market closes. But for today, we just had Walmart and the Home Depot. Like I said earlier, Walmart has beat on earnings and they announced a $2.3 billion deal to buy Vizio. And that's bullish news for them. Walmart is up so far. It's continuing to push and share price. On top of this, pretty good earnings. And for Q1 of 2025, we're looking at more net sales growth of 4 to 5%. So guidance has been quite decent thus far, and they're expecting the e-commerce sector to grow more and more as time goes on. You can see right over here how the guidance is looking. Not too bad. So good guidance, a big deal, and beating on earnings is bullish for Walmart. That's why the share price is pumping. But for the Home Depot, on the other hand, they technically beat on EPS and revenue. You can actually see the numbers right here with $2.82 and $34 billion in revenue. But their net sales year over year are down 3%. So it's a little bit negative so far for the quarterly sales year over year. And on top of this, guidance was kind of mixed, not the strongest of guidances. So that's the reason why the Home Depot wasn't as strong. So this is what it is with that. And now let's just talk about the charts. So as far as SPY goes, it's looking very weak right now. It's starting to reject off 498. If we continue to fail to hold above this, we could be sinking towards this 496 area. And if that fails this, our next target is 494. Now we're on a downtrend, but we're going to be watching to see if we get a little pop, grab liquidity in closer to 499 before we continue to sink, or if we just reject off 498 and start sinking back down. I do anticipate that there's more downside coming with a bearish trend being respected. Look for an attempt to rebound at first, so I might attempt to push up first before it continues lower. But just to be clear, we're going to likely see some more downside until we get to 496. That's going to be the key level to watch for, see if we see some buyers defend it. So in my opinion, I think the chart's looking a little bearish, at least for the immediate term. Be very careful when trading SPY, and there is going to be risk of this thing coming down a little bit lower. So look for the little pop to grab liquidity, and we'll continuation down. Watch 496 as key support. If that fails us, our next target is 494 and then 492. All right, so watch those levels. When it comes to Tesla, we're also looking a little bit weak, but this is exactly what we expected yesterday. There's not really any big news that came out for Tesla, at least for the morning. Now, one could argue that Tesla has a bull flag that's forming. We're going to get a bullish break. Sure, but if you look at Tesla, we're on a downtrend right now. We're going to be watching this resistance. And if it fails here, 195 is coming next. If we continue to downtrend, so if I draw this out like this, just like this, you could see that it might just continue with this downtrend to 195, 192, and then 190. There's going to be our supports to watch for. Resistance, make sure you watch to see if this could break out to fill this gap towards 199 to 200, 202, and then 205. Overall, Tesla is downtrending for now, so we'll have to see if this could get a breakout or not. We need a bullish catalyst for this thing to break out from this flag. So it still looks like it will break out eventually, but there's no signal quite yet, and we need some kind of bullish catalyst, whether it's an individual piece of news or if it's Nvidia's earnings. So we need a bullish catalyst for this to break out. Otherwise, it's downtrending. It's still rejecting off this trend line, so it might continue lower to 195. So just be very careful on Tesla. For the QQQ, make sure you watch resistance around 429 to 430 and watch support at 427. If that fails us, there's 425, 423.8, and then 422. In my opinion, the trend is looking a little bit more bearish on the QQQ, especially thanks to Nvidia. We rejected off this high, made a lower high. Now we're just continuing to sink. There's a downtrend: lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. It's clearly a downtrend that the QQQ is in for the time being. Watch resistance; it might pop a little bit towards this imbalance, then reject back down to 427. If that fails us, these lower supports are going to be coming next. But I did want to mention that we're looking kind of bearish right now. Just be a little bit careful. Our key level to watchers is going to be 425 because we did bounce off that 3 times. So it could pop a bit and then it continue to sink towards 425, if anything. But the chart's still looking kind of bearish, so just be kind of careful for not Aapl. I'm going to start off with Nvda before I talk about Aapl. Nvda, just as we predicted, I told you the chart was looking kind of bearish. And so far, we're actually seeing this thing come right back down. So I just want to call out stats. Looking at Nvidia, let me just fix my chart. Give me 1 second, guys. This is looking a little bit weaker. We formed a very, very nice top right over here, all the way up at this triple top rejection area. And now we're kind of shuffling around the 720 zone. So watch 720, 719 is resistance. If you break that, there's 725. Watch support at 715, 712, and 707. If we lose 707, we're going to be watching this trend line, which will take it all the way down towards 700. We're a little bit below that, closer to like 693. So I would say that Nvidia looks a little bit weaker here. Look for a little retest of 725. That's where we ended up breaking down from 720 to 725, this zone right here. Then we could reject and just continue to shuffle within this range, which I think Nvidia is going to do. A little pop and drop and just shuffling as time goes on. It could even show some weakness approaching its earnings, but just remember that does not matter. What matters more is going to be what happens after earnings. So watch resistance at 720, 725, and 730. Watch support at 715, 712, and then these lower levels. Look for a little pop and drop, and then some sideways price action. Overall, we're looking kind of weak. On Aapl is looking bearish. We've been on a downtrend thus far. And as you can see, it's been continuing to sink. I'd say that Aapl, it likes 182. It's trying to hold around there, but honestly, guys, it's not looking the strongest. So watch resistance at 182.5. Watch support at 181.36, 180, followed by 178. It could pop a little bit more, retest almost 183.5 or around that range, come back down to 182.5 and 181, just continue to trade sideways, but eventually continue lower. But the trend on Aapl is still looking kind of bearish. We're still breaking these lows. So Aapl could pop and drop. Be a little bit careful. Might trade sideways in this range because remember the key support is 178 to 180. We also have some support at 181. But like I said before, we're still on a slight downtrend. We're trying to base, but we're still downtrending slightly. So look for a little pop and drop, and then sideways price action, and even more downside as the days go on. So watch for that on Aapl. With that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully this video was helpful and insightful about what's happening with the market thus far. And we'll see how things go for now. We just know that the bears have an edge so far. They may continue to drag the market lower, but watch our supports, and then we'll just see how it goes. So take care, guys. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and peace out.